Hey, it's Janine from the Tour Life Podcast. Have you been trying to figure out how to make a podcast episode and you have no idea where to start or how to make it happen? Well, I'm going to show you guys a tool called Alitu that's going to get you there super quickly and super easily. So there's some steps that I go through to record and to mix my file, but at the end of it, once I have all of the core pieces of my episode, meaning I have my title sequence, I have my intro, I have my mix, which includes my interview, and then I also have my outro, I'm able to put it all together in Alitu. So I'm gonna show you with this episode, I'm basically just gonna recreate this guy. What I would do is I would add an episode, and I'm gonna say Mike Robinson, part 2. And then I could add my episode number. So if we went in sequence, we would say this is 030. And then I could add my name, so Janine. And the episode description you can add in there. This is in case you want to publish directly from Alitu. I don't do that, so I generally only fill out these two parts. Oop, and I put Meek instead of Mike. Okay, all right, so we're gonna save details. All right, so now the next thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna click right here and we're gonna find our files. So I keep everything in my iCloud Drive and obviously also in another hard drive once I have my full files. But when I'm working, since I do everything on iOS and I do everything on my Mac, then it's just easier to have it in iCloud. So anyway, I go to my folder, the Tour Life. I go to Mike Robinson. We're gonna be remaking this episode. I pick the files that I need. So I need my intro, I need my mix, and then I need my outro. So you guys can see that's what they are. So intro, outro, and my mix. I open them up, and then I upload them. So once the files are in here, I can also just add them from here. So since I had already made this, I'm going to just pick the files, and you can search for them. Mike Robinson, we're gonna do our outro, we're gonna do our mix, and we're gonna do our intro, and those are all added, okay? We're gonna upload them. Okay, so you basically just put them in order. So you have your intro, drums with artists, you have your mix, and then you have your outro. Now, the cool thing is that you can actually put an audio file where you're actually speaking and put a music file underneath it so that you have a nice sounding outro, I guess, if you want. So that's what makes it sound a little bit more professional. So I'll show you. For your title sequence, you just want to add your music. So I had already previously added a title. So I just do title with music. And then here, this basically just shows that it's going to fade in. So you're never gonna have anything like super harsh, okay? And that happens here and that happens here. So that's generally where I add my music. My music will be on the outside of these little crossfades. So I have my title. Then I have my intro. Today's guest has played drums with artists. Then I have my mix, which I actually allowed to just start immediately after my intro. What's up, Mike? How are you? Okay. Now this is where you can do one of two things. So you can just have your outro be normal, right? Here are some key takeaways from my conversation with Mike Robinson. 1, there's no right. Now, if I just leave it like that, it sounds fine, but if you want to add like a little pizzazz or something to it, here's the trick you can do. You're going to go to the music editor. So the music editor is an awesome tool because it lets you combine two files. So we're going to basically do my outro over some music so it sounds good. So my outro is right here, and then my music, I actually made a file which I just call NCSM. It means Nothing Can Stop Me, because that's the name of the song that I purchased. But it's right here, and I actually had already gone in and changed it up a little bit so that it would be the perfect size for my outro. So then you kind of just pick where you want your voice track to go, and then you put it over your music. So there is a certain point in this music track that I like to have my voice starting. So it sounds like this. All right, so right there where it goes, yeah. So right there, that's where I'm gonna start my voice file, right? So I'm just gonna listen for it and I'm gonna drop it in there. We know it's somewhere over here. And then we're gonna try again.
Here are some.
So that's started a little bit late, so I'm just gonna drag it over.
Here are some key
Perfect.
takeaways.
So then I'm gonna process, add my name. So I just usually do, my episode number, Mike Robinson, and then I'll do outro with music. Now, obviously there's better ways to name your files, so go ahead and do that. I still have to go back in and edit all of my files because they're not organized the way that they should be. So if you can get started and find a good naming organization system for your files from the get-go, that'll be a big help. And then you just click save. Okay. Now, when we go back to our episode, we don't need this anymore, right?
Here are some.
Because I already made my new file. So I can just go ahead and remove that. Then here I go to add your music. There is a cool option where you have the free library and you can look through here and just add different tracks. So you can go ahead and do something like that. But because I already have the music that I purchased, that's just what I'm gonna use. So I'm just gonna go to add your music and I have Mike Robinson outro with music, and then that's what I'm gonna use. So I have my title with music. Then I have my intro.
Today's guest has played drums with artists.
Then I have my interview.
What's up, Mike? How are you?
Good.
Then I have my outro with music. Wait for it.
Here are some key takeaways from my conversation with Mike Robinson, or Foodie. 3, don't try to play like other people. And 5, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Have fun and always be learning. Thank you so much for joining us on the Tour Life Podcast. Be sure to give Mike a follow on Instagram at Mike Robinson and to support his podcast at food.ontour. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, and to follow the Tour Life on Instagram at the Tour Life Podcast.
And that's it. So now I have this, right? I know what I want. If I want, I can also add a teaser trailer. So that just means you take a little clip from the actual conversation that you had or whatever the bulk of your podcast was, and then you throw it in the beginning. So it's usually something that's like really interesting, something that's kind of like a wow factor. I haven't done that quite yet, but it's a great tool and I fully plan on using it eventually. All right, so now we're just gonna export our episode. So you click that, and then you go to episodes and you wait. Since we already have this episode, I'm just gonna show you what it sounds like. So this is the episode that we would have made, right? We would have made Mike Robinson, and this is what it would sound like. Okay, now you can't actually do anything from here, and so you want to go into preview and publish to actually take a look at the episode. And in here, it's going to let you skip around, however you want to, which is something I definitely do before I download it, because you want to make sure that the transitions are good, and you want to make sure that you don't have anything out of order, and that everything's, copacetic. So here we have, let's listen a little bit. Fast forward 30
You'll find
seconds.
some great stories, advice. He is also the host of the Food on Tour podcast, where he's doing what you love. Today's guest has played drums with artists.
All right, so that sounded pretty good, right? It was a nice, decent transition. Sounds just like all my other episodes, so we're good on that. So now we can kind of fast
such as
forward
Joseph,
a
the
little
Chain
bit.
Gang of 19. Here's my conversation with my awesome podcaster friend, Mike Robinson. What's up, Mike? How are you?
All right, so one of the things there is that the conversation actually started pretty much immediately after my intro. There are times where that won't necessarily happen, and so then you have to go back into the episode and edit it. But that sounded good, so we're going to continue listening. I'm just going to assume everything sounds pretty good. You can take a listen, especially with headphones, just to make sure that the levels are right, but they will be. Alitu's great.
I don't have enough tattoos to play for this pop chick. Like, what does that even mean?
Wow. So, and it's funny because, as you were telling me that story,
So then you can hear that the volume is just about right, so there's no need to worry. So we can look through that. Obviously, take your time checking it out, because once you download this file, that's it. That's what you're going to upload to your host. So we're going to kick it all the way to the end just to see how that transition is.
All the external factors.
the food eventually, hopefully,
I
in
hope
the
you
very
do.
near future. All right. Have a good night. See ya.
Thanks, you too.
All right, that transition sounded great. So now let's see that very last part.
Here are some key takeaways from my conversation
Perfect.
with Mike.
And that's it. So we have our file, and so now we can go ahead and download it. You're just going to get this little MP3. The original files, I always like to use WAV files because they sound better. In my How to Start a Podcast, I also mentioned the importance of having a really high quality file, which usually you get from a service. When you're recording remotely, you usually get from a service that records directly onto your hard drive while you're doing the interview. So Squadcast, which you can go ahead and click on the link below and you'll get a free trial. With Squadcast, you're actually able to download the local audio. So literally what it does is it records your audio from wherever you are. If your guest is in New York and they are talking into their microphone, it's recording the audio to their hard drive, holding it in a temporary folder, and then as soon as the conversation's over, it uploads it to the cloud. That's where it's going to stay. So the temporary folder will be gone, it'll be deleted automatically. And then when you, at your house or at your studio, you decide you want to pull that file out of the cloud, then you can store it directly onto your hard drive locally. So essentially, it's just kind of the mediator between these two local files. I definitely recommend them. You're going to get great audio. With Alitu, you're going to be able to actually just take all of those great audio files and just put them together in the simplest way. Once we have that, there's also a way to download a video. So when you download the video, it's going to give you an MP4. The MP4 is going to have a generic background that I personally don't love. So I make my own video file using LumaFusion, which is the same software that I use to edit these videos on my iPad Pro. But, these are great if you're just trying to save time and you just want to throw them up onto YouTube and just maybe create a thumbnail. That's perfect. Go ahead. Anyway, you're able to do both of those things. And then it will store all of your episodes for you. So I have a total of, I think, 32 episodes because I did some bonus episodes. And they're all stored right here. You can listen to all of them. You can download them however you want. I recommend that you download all of them and then store them in a hard drive of your own. And then you also keep a copy in the cloud, whichever one you use. Then they're stored in essentially 4 different places. So you basically have a copy in Alitu. You have a copy in your host. I use Simplecast. You have a copy stored in the cloud. And then you would also have a copy stored in your hard drive. It's always better safe than sorry. You don't know if any of these services are going to go under at any point, and so you just want to make sure that your hard work is actually stored. And something really great about Alitu is that it actually also has really great customer service. So you can go ahead and send them a message anytime you want. There's, if you're having any technical issues, and they will get back to you, especially if it is during business hours, they'll respond immediately. Otherwise, you can search for answers. So right here, I'm just searching for how to add music. Let's look for free music. And then it'll actually take you through the step-by-step of what I just did, which was showing you how to add music to your voice clip, or even just how to download free music through Alitu. Well, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope that this makes your life a little bit easier. You can go ahead and get a 7-day free trial if you could click on the link below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and listen to my podcast, the Tour Life Podcast, where you will get to hear from awesome people like Mike Robinson on episode 29.